Our Vintage ministry is a college specifically targeted at young adults in the college arena, and currently ministering to probably 700 college students in Western New York. It's a great opportunity, a great place for kids to not only learn about God, respond by faith, but also then to be discipled and grow in their faith. It's been a unique opportunity for us in this community, and God continues to bless and use it, not only here, but also in other places, in other college campuses around the country, which has been cool. First, how I learned about global outreach was a long-standing relationship that the church in which I'm a member of had a relationship with Global in supporting a couple of the ministries and a couple of the missionaries that they had. However, that relationship took a significant turn here probably about 4 years ago. That turn basically involved us getting more engaged in Sierra Leone. And we were doing something around the Christmas season and wanting to make a difference as it relates to a water well project somewhere in the world. And that really was the door that was opened by God and allowed us to step into not only helping put a water well in Sierra Leone, but now has blossomed into many other things. And I was personally involved in that and consider that something that God brokered a divine lunch appointment with the president of Global Outreach, Brian Albrecht, and he and I had a great conversation that day, and it has turned into a very significant and meaningful partnership between our church, the chapel, and Global Outreach. Well, my involvement with Global Outreach and my involvement at the chapel actually is one and the same on many levels. I get the privilege and honor of being part of facilitating and even leading to some degree the primary, what we'll say, outreach activities of the church in which I'm involved in. And in doing so, I get to meet and get to hang out with those partners wherever they are and whatever they're doing. And Global being one of our strategic partners, I get to spend a lot of time with them, which involves not only direct conversations, but it also involves strategic planning, and it also involves even at times taking trips with them, of which I've done. And so I have personal experience with them as to seeing and experiencing what it is that they do in the places where God has opened some doors for them. You know, it's interesting that how God weaves together from time to time people of like-mindedness, but more importantly, people who have a like-minded heart. And Global Outreach is one of those entities that we would look at from a church, and even from me from a personal perspective, to say, you know what, they think the same and they believe the same and their heartbeat is the same as ours. And that is this, is that they are working tangibly in places around the world to ensure that the gospel of Jesus Christ, is both seen and experienced as well as heard by those there, which, depending upon the context, is going to look a little bit different, but nonetheless, they are working towards that reality. And that is the same in which we're working towards. And so we find a lot of common ground at a vision level and at a mission level and even at a purpose level as to why God has us here and what He has for us to do together. Well, I can tell you this, that Brian's heart and that of Global Outreach is one that is specifically geared for sharing the gospel. I have personally been involved in instances where he and I standing side by side in villages in the middle of nowhere in Africa, and we're opening God's Word and communicating, in some instances, for the very first time, the gospel to people there who are hearing and responding to it. And I know for a fact that it is of utmost priority to them to do those things, and also to work in such ways to allow the gospel to not only have a proclamation component to it, but also to have a demonstration component to it, such that the people there that are hoping and wishing and wanting to see the love of God can not only experience it, but they also can hear it and respond to it. And I am very appreciative of that, and that's one of the reasons why we partner with them, because of what they're able to do and what they are doing in many places around the world. Well, one of the things that we have been working with Global Outreach on as it relates to discipleship is that it is an awesome privilege and honor to see people responding to the gospel, but you need to do more than just communicate to them what God's Word says about their eternal hope and eternal salvation. They need to be able to grow and mature in the faith in which they have stepped into. And I have personally seen and worked with global as it relates to what do you do with these people that have come to faith, and in some instances have come to faith in some very challenging circumstances where Christianity may not be the predominant religion in that place, but yet they are still obligated, we are still obligated to ensure that they can develop, grow, and mature in their faith. And so I personally have seen global invest in the discipleship and the spiritual formation of those that respond to faith in those countries by training up pastors, equipping pastors, planting churches, and doing things of which need to happen in the context in which they're in, that effectively allows for those people who respond by faith to then be able to grow and mature in that faith. I think there's a couple of opportunities for people to get engaged with global outreach. Obviously, it is a faith-based mission organization that has been doing things for over 70 years in 50 different countries. And as such, they do have needs. And so obviously there is a financial need of which people can support and get engaged in. But there's more than that. There's opportunities for people to personally get engaged by going on trips themselves, much like the trips that I have been on with them, to actually see, to touch, to hear, to get face to face with the realities of what people in this world are dealing with, and how people can personally themselves step into an environment where they can be an answer to a prayer that an entire village, an entire community may be praying about as it relates to God helping them. And so I think there's a number of ways people can get involved. You can go on their website, missiongo.org, and you can find out all sorts of information as to what that might look like for you as an individual. I do what I do because I believe that God has created us to make a difference in this world. I do what I do because I believe that there's a connectivity among God's people to be a blessing to the world in which we live, and that blessing needs to come both in the demonstration as well as the articulation of God's love found in Jesus Christ. And I believe that God calls His people, His church, to work together, to be the extension, to be His representation, and to be His, what I'll say, examples of grace in this world, given the fact that there is so much need for not only individual people, but entire nations are struggling with the reality of their existence and the reality of life. There's an incredible opportunity for people in America to be a blessing. God has given us much, and as a father, as a husband, and as a pastor, and as a Christ follower, I believe there's a sense of obligation, there's even a sense of responsibility for us to show the world the love of God by what we do and by what we say. And that's why I do what I do. There's a unique opportunity today in the world, given the fact that there's truly now for the first time a global church, and I believe it is responsibility of all of God's people to come together to say, what is it that what God would have us to do at this time, at this moment, working together?